I want to explain to you what the NCAA could do, and more importantly, the many things they cannot do. All right, so let's start. We lost Justin Rogers. Maybe. He might come back. He's entered the portal. I think he probably is going to go somewhere. But he entered the portal, and I think it's because of NIL. I mean, I think basically he believes and maybe even knows that he will be offered more money to go play somewhere else. And people have said to me when I wrote that it was because of NIL, well, Matt, what does that mean, blah, blah, blah. Here's where we are. Kentucky was about 5 or 6 months behind every other program in the country getting started on the NIL and the collectives. They just were.
That's facts.
That's facts. Everybody else got a head start. We were behind in large part because Mitch Barnhart and the administration were like, let's wait and see what the NCAA will do or whatever. And then after a few months, I think everybody realized they're not going to do anything. And so we kind of started the process. And I've been very critical of Mitch on this issue, but I think he is closer to being where he needs to be now than he's ever been, and he's moving in the right direction. Still, there have to be some changes. There are let me explain to you again what a collective is. The collective, and our biggest one is Kentucky15.com. There's also the Commonwealth Causes that does the raffles. But Kentucky15.com, Kentucky and the number 15.com, is our unofficial, official football collective.
Correct.
It's the one that the football staff wants people to donate to. Commonwealth Causes is part of it, and they also are doing basketball. Okay? What these collectives do, when NIL was allowed, the theory behind it was Ryan Lemon's a player. He should be able to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and do ads for Kentucky Fried Chicken and get paid.
Yes.
That was the theory. Well, as with everything in life and law, when people know they can exploit something, they do. And immediately, and I think Texas was the first one to do this, Texas realized, well, why do we have to actually use corporations? Let's just create our own thing, and they can sign endorsement deals with them. So when you hear people talk about collectives, as I said, they are actually signing an endorsement deal with the collective. And the work they have to do is like signing autographs. So these collectives are raising money and signing Ryan Lemon to an endorsement deal with them. Now, is that what was intended? Probably not. But is it legal under the current system? Yes. And all the schools are doing it. So how do these collectives get money? Well, the primary way most of them are getting money is big donors are just putting pots of money in these collectives. Rather than giving $1 million to the University of Auburn, I'll give $500,000 to Auburn, and I'll give $500,000 to the collective. That's what's happening. The problem at Kentucky is we don't have very many of those people who just will put a big pot of money into the collective. And this is where the administration, I think, screwed up for a while. They were telling their big donors, don't give to that, give to us. Because you can see there's a tension between the athletics department. They're worried that some of the money they've been getting is going to start going to this collective. But UK, to their credit, has opened up a little bit more. I don't think they're telling people to give to it, but they're not telling them not to anymore. But we just don't have a lot of big, huge donors that are kind of football focused. A lot of the donors are university focused, some are basketball focused, but we don't have a lot that are football focused. We probably have like 4 or 5. And they gave a lot of money this year to help us get some of these transfers, keep Barry on Brown, etc. But I think there's a sense of this ain't going to be something that's going to come every year from these people. Which gets us to those subscriptions, right?
Yeah.
So now schools that don't have those big donors, they have thought the way we put this in is we sell these subscriptions. And the idea behind the subscriptions, and I can say this now, and I'm saying it because it's important to understand, I was part of setting this up. So I know what happened. The idea behind it was we're going to set up these subscriptions. People can come and subscribe, and we will give them things that sort of are enhancements, but really they're doing it to give money to the program, $25 a month, $100 a month, whatever. here's where JMI and here's where the problem has been. JMI and the university are not allowing the coaches to be part of those extras. So the idea, and honestly it was my idea and one of the people with the collective, was let's have events where Stoops, Vince, and the coaches meet fans, do autographs, game watch parties. Let's do all this stuff. The coaches were willing to do it. The coaches are willing to do whatever. JMI has said, no, you can't do that. They're trying to think of things that they can do instead of getting these coaches, but at the end of the day, they need the coaches.
Yeah.
Right? They need the coaches. They can do stuff with the players that they've signed the deals to, but that's it. So that's the tension. Now, I hear fans say, well, Matt, why should I give money to this? I already pay for tickets. I already pay for parking. I buy shirts, and I understand that opinion. I get it. It's a perfectly reasonable opinion. But here's what I want you to understand. That money you give for tickets, that money you give for parking, that money you give for the shirts, not only does it not go to the collective, that's the one NCAA rule. The school cannot give money to the collective. So even if UK wanted to give the collective $10 million, they're not allowed to. So when people say, well, I'm already giving money for tickets, why should I give money for this? Those two things are not the same thing. That's like saying, I already eat food, why should I breathe air? The reality is, the collective needs money. And maybe the answer is you give a little less to the university. Yeah. You buy a few less shirts and you do that. That's your choice, though. If a fan doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to badger them about it. I understand. But I just want people to understand that when they say I'm already spending money, why does the school want me to spend more? They're two different pots of money, and the school is not allowed to give their money to the collective. The coaches are not allowed. I think some of our coaches had even thought about taking a little piece of their salary and giving it to the collective. Not allowed. Okay? So then you get to the questions of people going, this doesn't seem right. We should have a salary cap. You can't by law. You cannot. The Supreme Court decided 9-0 that you cannot limit players from doing name, image, likeness. You know why? Because it's a free market. It's capitalism. But guess what happens in a free market and capitalism? You cannot cap the amount of money people can make. So the NCAA is not even allowed to say you can't make more than $1 million. Is there any other business where the law says you can't make more than this? No, because it's not allowed. So even though people say this is what we should do, the NCAA is not allowed to do it. Now, the NCAA could have saved all this. They could have just started paying the players directly, at which point they could have collectively bargained. They could have had a salary cap. This all could have been avoided. But you know what? Didn't happen. Too late. Too late. So what happens now? Honestly, I don't even know. I don't think there's going to be any rules they can enforce. Here's what they need to have happen. They need Congress to come, because the one person that could put a cap, the one entity that could put a cap on this stuff is Congress. Congress could pass a law and say athletes that are getting college scholarships can only make $500,000. I'm not even sure if that law would stand under the Supreme Court, but they might be able to. The NCAA cannot. So we're back to this situation. So for Kentucky to compete, here's how I look at it, and I saw Justin Rowland say this yesterday, and I agree with him. I think Kentucky is going to be able to compete and get the top 10 guys on their roster, give them a significant amount of money, and we'll be fine. We will be able, for the most part, to keep our stars. Where our problem is going to exist is guys 11 through 30. We don't, I think, yet have the resources to give those guys money. So when somebody like Justin Rogers, who's a great player, but who's probably like our 20th best player, knows he could go to Auburn and get good money as the 20th best player, he's going to do it because we don't have enough to compete with that. So Barryon Brown, Devin Leary, Deion Walker, I think we're always going to be able to keep those guys, but I think the problem is going to be, can we keep our depth? And that won't change unless we get more money, either from people donating individually or from big donors. and we'll see if that happens. I don't know if it will or not. I do know, though, and I firmly believe this. If JMI would take their foot off the brake and allow coaches to be part of the collective, I think the number they need is 5,000. The math, I've been part of the discussions. 5,000 people is what they need. They're hoping to get 10,000. I think that's a little sort of ambitious. But I think they can get 5,000. People keep asking me what they have. It's not close to 5,000 yet. But it's a decent amount. But I think, Ryan, if people knew they could meet Mark Stoops, they could go to events, they could, go to like that bourbon and cigar thing we go to.
Yeah.
If they knew they could do stuff like that, I think they would contribute and be part of it. But I think JMI's got to let the coaches do it because the number they need is 5,000. The number they want is 10,000. We're not yet close, Ryan, to either one of those.
I have several questions. One, you've mentioned several times that this group of donors that stepped up this time, is there a concern they won't continue to step up?
Well, they just can't. I think they're saying, look, we're not giving $500,000 every year.
We'll do it this year.
We'll do it this year to help. We'll give money, but we're not giving that every year because they still have to give money for their suites at the games.
Yeah.
They still have this other stuff. This is so like I think there's a sense of, yeah, we'll help, but don't expect $500,000 every year.
So who is or how are they going out to attract new donors to fill the void?
I don't know. Where in Kentucky are there multi-millionaires willing to give $500,000 that aren't doing it now?
Yeah.
Where do you find those people? They don't grow on trees.
No, they do not.
Chances are, if you have that kind of money, you're already part of it, So we'll take a break.
I think a lot of people don't understand it.
Was that clearer?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Well, but here's the problem of having the one that chose 25.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think that the vast majority of people are going to pick the smallest amount because they'll feel like they're doing something.
Yes.
And so I think what they worry about is if you set something for $5, people who might give 25 choose 5.
Because it's the less amount.
Because it's the amount that they can kind of, and so I think that's part of what the thinking is. And if you think about it, Shannon, if 4 people choose 5 and one of those would have chosen 25, you're better off having the one that chose 25.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think that's the reason I think they thought that. Maybe that will change, but I think the worry is most people that sign up for this will sign up for the smallest amount. So you have to make a smallest amount that helps. You know what I mean?
We're all guilty of that. Yeah,
everyone's guilty of that. You give choices, people will go, hey, I'm going to be part of this, but I'm going to give the smallest amount. And I understand that. Like, that's human nature, and that's what it is. One person writes, Matt, Congress does regulate how much health care folks can make, et cetera. They could do it for this. They can, but they haven't. So my point is, until they do, there's nothing the NCAA can do.
Yeah.
And if you look at the craziness in Congress right now, they can't even elect a speaker. Like the idea that they're going to somehow all of a sudden fix this with a Democrat Senate and a Republican House and a Democrat president, that's a tall ask. It's a tall ask for that to happen. I hope it does, but it's a tall ask.
I have another question.
Okay.
Is JMI had this same philosophy for all their schools?
I am told no, but I don't know that for certain. And I don't know what the difference is, and but I don't know it for certain. I know, for instance, JMI is the media company for Alabama, and I know Nick Saban is part of their collective. So my assumption is JMI is allowing it. But I don't know because I'm not at Alabama. I do know these coaches right now are not allowed to do the events, and to me that's a mistake because I'll just give you an example of what we were going to do. Here's what we were going to do. We were going to make it to where if you signed up for the collective, we were going to have 2 basketball games in January where Mark Stoops was going to sit right here at KS Bar and watch the games with the fans and sign autographs and take pictures during the game. In my opinion, that would have gotten a lot of people to sign up.
A lot of people sign up.
And might have been good for the whole football-basketball thing, right? He's here watching a basketball game and et cetera. JMI said no. So what are you going to do? I mean, I don't really know what else. I mean, the reason, just so you know, the reason they had me involved was just for the creativity of thinking, what would fans like?
Yeah.
That's why I was involved. What is it fans would like? And I was like, they might like this, they might like that. We came up with all this stuff. There was going to be an event and it may still be, but I can't say where it is, but there was going to be an event at the end of January, not here, down at a bigger spot, that I thought was going to be amazing. Don't think it can happen now.
Wow.
So, and that's all JMI. So when you hear me going after JMI, it's not personal. I don't think they're bad people, but they're missing the forest for the trees on this right now, because we have to make this stuff work. And to me, you want to get 5,000 subscribers? Give them things that will make them subscribe. And most subscribers, I look at you all, respectfully, y'all don't want to hang out with kids. Y'all don't want to hang out with college players, but coaches are our age, right? Like, your kids might want to hang out with the players, but you, the one writing the check, would like to meet Stoops or Vince or Brad White, and that's the part I don't think JMI gets, and it's why they're, I think, hurting this. But that's not the only issue, though. I want to be clear. It's not just JMI. I mean, there's a big donor issue. Auburn's got Alabama, LSU's got 20 guys, 25 guys that can give $500,000 a year. We just don't have that here. We have maybe 5.
Yeah.
And that's and so in that respect, it's just always going to be hard for us. But there's nothing the NCAA can do about this, really. There's really nothing they can do. Once the Supreme Court ruled 9-0, that's the law. And when you go 9-0 on the Supreme Court, like, that means y'all can't do anything about this.
It ain't getting changed.
And it ain't getting changed, and that's what it is.